Picture this. You've been dieting for 3 solid months. You're eating less than you ever have. You're hitting the gym harder than before, logging extra miles on the treadmill, pushing heavier weights. And then one morning, you step on the scale, and the number just stops. Not slowing down. Stopped. Frozen. You stand in front of the mirror, and you can almost feel it, like there's some invisible force inside your body fighting back, like someone is quietly holding on to your fat cells, refusing to let go. That feeling is not in your head. Your body is waging a war against you. And here's the unsettling part: you don't even know the rules. Inside every one of us is an extraordinarily sophisticated survival system, and its number one job is not to make you look good in jeans. Its number one job is to keep you alive. This system has been polished and perfected over hundreds of thousands of years of human evolution, and the moment you start burning serious fat, it quietly activates a chain of countermeasures. It slows your fat burn. It makes you hungrier. It makes you exhausted. And eventually, most people give up. Scientists have a name for this. They call it metabolic adaptation. But today, we're going way beyond those two words. We're going to crack open exactly what your body is doing at every stage when you try to torch fat. Why does it get harder the more weight you lose? Why does the scale stall? Why do some people eat like a bird and still can't drop a pound? The answers are more complex and, honestly, more fascinating than you might think. Let's start from the very beginning. The first day you cut your calories, your body doesn't panic. It barely notices. For the first few days, it dips into the glycogen stored in your liver and muscles, basically the loose cash in your wallet. You don't touch your savings account when you've still got $20 in your pocket. Glycogen is the easiest energy source for your body to grab. And here's a detail most people miss. Every gram of glycogen is bonded with about 3 grams of water. So those first few pounds that dropped off so satisfyingly in week 1, mostly water. That's the real reason early weight loss feels so fast and so motivating. But once that glycogen runs dry, your body finally starts dipping into actual fat stores. And this is where things get interesting. Fat cells are not a passive storage unit. They're not just warehouses sitting there waiting for orders. Fat cells behave more like alert, intelligent managers, constantly monitoring conditions, constantly sending signals back to headquarters. When fat cells start shrinking, they reduce the production of a hormone called leptin. Think of leptin as the fuel gauge in your car. It tells your brain whether your energy reserves are full or running low. When leptin drops, your hypothalamus, the command center in your brain that handles energy regulation, picks up the signal immediately. And then it makes a decision that, frankly, sucks for you. It lowers your basal metabolic rate. It cranks up your appetite. Now, basal metabolic rate, or BMR, that's the energy your body burns just to keep you alive while you're doing absolutely nothing. Lying on the couch, sleeping, scrolling Instagram. Think of it like the appliances in your house that never turn off. The refrigerator humming, the Wi-Fi router blinking, the water heater quietly working in the basement. Your heart beating, your lungs breathing, your kidneys filtering, your cells repairing themselves. That all costs energy. That's your baseline. And when your brain catches the leptin warning, it tells your whole system, start conserving power. Your heart beats a little slower. Your body temperature drops a fraction of a degree. Non-essential cell activity scales back. Add it all up, and your basal metabolism can drop anywhere from 10 to 25%. In extreme dieters, even more. There's a famous study published in major medical journals that tracked contestants from The Biggest Loser, the American reality TV show where people compete to lose massive amounts of weight. Researchers followed them for 6 years after the show ended. 6 years later, their basal metabolic rates were still significantly lower than normal. Metabolic adaptation isn't a temporary thing you bounce back from in a few weeks. It can stick around for years. That's exactly why so many people who lose weight aggressively end up heavier than when they started. But here's a shocking truth most people don't know. Metabolic adaptation doesn't just make you burn fewer calories at rest, it also makes you more efficient during exercise. And efficiency, when you're trying to lose fat, is bad news. Studies have shown that when your body is running a calorie deficit, you actually burn fewer calories doing the exact same workout than you would normally. Your body learns to do the same work with less fuel. It's like a car that's been tuned for fuel economy. You think you're flooring the gas pedal, but the engine is secretly sipping, not gulping. There's a technical name for another piece of this. It's called NEAT, non-exercise activity thermogenesis. NEAT covers how you walk, how you fidget at your desk, how often you tap your foot during a Zoom meeting, how you shift your posture standing in line at Starbucks. These tiny, unconscious movements, they can add up to several hundred calories burned per day. But when your body switches into power save mode, those micro movements quietly disappear. You walk with less bounce. You fidget less. You sit more. You become, without even noticing, lazier. That's not weak willpower. That's your nervous system pulling the plug on non-essential activity to save battery. Now, let's go deeper. After weeks, maybe months of dieting, your body activates an even more complex hormonal defense system. 3 key players run this show. First, insulin. Insulin is like the energy dispatcher in your body. It decides whether the calories you just ate get used right away or stored as fat. When you've been in a calorie deficit for a long time, your insulin sensitivity changes. Your cells become hyper-responsive. So the moment you eat a little more than usual, say you go out for pizza on a Friday night, your body stores fat with terrifying efficiency. This is why people who lose weight aggressively often regain it faster than they lost it, sometimes way faster. Second, cortisol. Cortisol is your stress hormone, your body's emergency alarm. And here's the kicker. Long-term dieting is itself a form of physiological stress. Cortisol stays elevated. And elevated cortisol does 2 nasty things. It promotes fat storage, specifically around your belly, and it accelerates muscle breakdown. So you might not even be losing fat anymore. You might be losing muscle. And muscle is the most metabolically expensive tissue in your body. Less muscle, lower BMR, harder to lose fat. A vicious loop. Third, growth hormone and testosterone. Normally, these 2 hormones are responsible for building muscle and breaking down fat. But under the combined pressure of long-term calorie restriction and intense training, both drop noticeably. Your body starts to lose its ability to burn fat and hold on to muscle. You enter what's called a catabolic dominant state. Picture a struggling factory. Layoffs, shutdowns, lights off, doing anything possible to cut costs and survive the rough patch. Have you ever experienced this? You've been dieting for a while, and suddenly you feel wrecked. Your mood tanks, your sleep gets worse, and food becomes an obsession. You think about it constantly. You dream about it. Drop a comment and tell me if this sounds familiar, because I promise you, you're not alone. And now you know, this isn't a psychological weakness. This is your biology screaming a very clear message. Let's go deeper still. Beyond hormones, there's a battle happening at the cellular level, and this is one of the most important things to understand about fat loss. When you lose weight long term, your fat cells don't disappear. They just shrink. The number of fat cells in your body is essentially fixed by the time you finish adolescence. When you successfully lose fat, those cells aren't deleted. They're deflated. Like balloons that have been let out, but the balloons are still there. And those shrunken fat cells keep sending signals to your brain saying, "Please, refill us." That refill craving drives your hunger system to dial itself up, sometimes for a year or more after weight loss. Studies from Harvard and the National Institutes of Health have confirmed this. Your body, after losing significant weight, stays hormonally and neurologically biased toward restoring its original weight for a very long time. This is the core of what scientists call the set point theory. Your body has a weight range it considers safe, like the thermostat in your apartment. No matter how hot or cold it gets outside, the system fights to return to that set temperature. If you drag your weight below your set point, your body activates every single mechanism we just talked about to pull you back up. But here's both the frustrating and the hopeful part. Set points are not unchangeable. They just change very, very slowly. Research shows that by maintaining a lower body weight consistently, with enough muscle mass and regular training, you can gradually lower your set point. It just takes 1 to 2 years, minimum, which is exactly why the maintenance phase after weight loss is more important and harder than the weight loss itself. Now, let me bust a few of the biggest myths about fat burning. Myth number 1, eat less, lose more. This is one of the most dangerous misconceptions out there. As we've already seen, extreme restriction triggers a steeper metabolic drop and accelerates muscle loss. Once your muscle drops, your BMR drops further, and you have to eat even less to maintain the deficit. It's a dead end that gets narrower with every step. The NIH has published research showing that diets under 1,200 calories a day dramatically accelerate muscle breakdown. Long-term, they actually make you fatter, not thinner. Myth number 2, more cardio equals more fat loss. Sounds logical. Reality says otherwise. When you crank up cardio every single day, your body fights back by reducing NEAT. Your cortisol rises, and your muscle starts to break down. A study in a top sports science journal found that beyond a certain weekly cardio volume, the extra calorie burn becomes vanishingly small because your body compensates everywhere else. Moderate cardio, combined with resistance training, is the actual winning formula. Myth number 3. If you're stuck on a plateau, you must be eating too much or moving too little. Wrong. The plateau is metabolic adaptation. Your body has reached a new equilibrium at a new energy intake. Blindly cutting more calories or adding more workouts usually just deepens the adaptation. The smarter move is a diet refeed, periodically raising your calorie intake for a short window, letting leptin rebound, letting your metabolism breathe, then resuming the deficit. In sports nutrition, this is called diet cycling, and the research supporting it keeps growing. Now, let's talk seriously about risks and limits. Metabolic adaptation is a normal, healthy response. But when you try to bulldoze through it with extreme behavior, your body pays real damages. If you stay in a severe deficit for too long, you can develop what's called relative energy deficiency in sport, or RED-S. It's especially common among endurance athletes. In this state, bone density drops, immune function crashes, and hormones go completely sideways. Women can lose their menstrual cycle. Men can experience a collapse in testosterone. This isn't a side effect of dieting. This is your body screaming that it's now in pure survival mode. Certain groups need to be especially careful. People with hypothyroidism already have a lower BMR, and they'll experience deeper metabolic adaptation. They need a doctor's guidance. Women with PCOS have insulin and hormonal challenges that extreme dieting only worsens. Teenagers are still developing, and strict calorie restriction interferes with growth hormone and bone development. And anyone with a history of disordered eating, extreme dieting can trigger serious psychological and physiological crises. Healthy fat loss should never come at the cost of your muscle, your bones, your hormones, or your mental health. Ever. So, knowing all of this, is there a smarter way? Yes, but it requires giving up your obsession with speed. First, keep a moderate deficit, not an extreme one, around 100 to 500 calories below maintenance per day. That's the sweet spot where your body burns fat without triggering a full-scale defensive response. Fat loss is a marathon, not a 100-meter sprint. Second, make resistance training the centerpiece of your strategy. Muscle is the engine of your metabolism. Maintaining or even building muscle while losing fat is the single most effective weapon against metabolic adaptation. Study after study confirms this. Strength training during a deficit dramatically reduces muscle loss and protects BMR. Third, eat enough protein. Protein has the highest thermic effect of food, meaning digesting it burns calories just on its own. And protein gives your muscles the raw material they need to survive a deficit. The current sports nutrition recommendation is 1.5 to 2.2 grams of protein per kilogram of body weight. 6 to 2 grams of protein per kilogram of body weight per day during fat loss. Fourth, sleep and stress matter more than you think. Poor sleep directly raises cortisol, suppresses growth hormone, and wrecks appetite-regulating hormones. A Stanford study found that people sleeping less than 6 hours a night had significantly elevated ghrelin, the hunger hormone, and significantly suppressed leptin, which means during the day, they were ambushed by intense cravings they could barely fight. Fifth, consider cycling your diet. Don't stay in a strict deficit every single day for months. Build in 1 or 2 maintenance days, or even slight surplus days every week or two. Let your metabolic system reset before adaptation digs in deep. So, back to where we started. Will your body resist fat burning to its very limit? Yes, and it will resist intelligently, stubbornly, systematically. But here's the thing, that's not a bug. That's evolutionary wisdom. Hundreds of thousands of years ago, your ancestors lived in a world of extreme food uncertainty. The humans who survived famines were exactly the ones whose bodies stored fat most efficiently, slowed metabolism most aggressively, and resisted energy loss most stubbornly. The precise system inside you right now, the one frustrating your diet, is one of the reasons our species is still here. It's just that in a modern world drowning in cheap calories, that system's settings collide head-on with our health goals. Understanding this system isn't about defeating it. It's about cooperating with it. When you know metabolic adaptation is coming, you don't panic on the plateau. When you know muscle is the foundation of metabolism, you stop obsessing only over cardio. When you understand how complex the hormonal picture is, you stop blaming your failed diet on weak willpower. Your body is not your enemy. It's just using a few 100,000 years of evolutionary logic to try to protect you. The smartest fat loss strategy has never been a head-on collision with your biology. It's reading the rulebook and steering things gently toward the direction you want. Slower, steadier, smarter. That's the right way to live in this body for the long haul. If today's breakdown gave you a new perspective on what's actually happening inside you, if you finally understand why plateaus exist, why fat loss gets harder over time, if any of this lifts even a little of the guilt you've been carrying, share this video with a friend who's stuck on the same road. Let them know it's not a willpower problem. It's a physiology problem, and physiology can be understood and it can be worked with. Hit like if this helped. Subscribe so we can keep unpacking the wild science of what's happening inside your body. See you in the next one.